Hey guys, I'm Alex Giebert with BFE Adventures, and today I'm going to talk about whether or not you should buy a used GS. Stay tuned. Okay guys, so today I want to discuss a few things about what I've noticed having my R1200 GS and some certain things that I love about it, certain things I don't love about it, and then whether or not I think it's worth buying a used one. So a lot of times, whenever people see one of these, they just assume it's going to be really expensive. And realistically, nowadays, you get a used GS for a decent used GS for let's say 10 grand, maybe like between 7 and 10. You could find a reasonably priced GS. This one I actually traded a bike for, so I can't give you the actual value as far as money goes for this one, but I think realistically I could probably sell it for about 9 or 10 thousand and get it pretty easily. Now, that being said, is it worth that kind of money to get a used bike when we're talking, the Yamaha's Tenere 700 is only $10,000 brand new? Well, here's a few things that I will say. After owning a few other adventure bikes, this one is by far my favorite. I'll just say that. There's a reason that this is the king of adventure bikes for a reason. There's been plenty of people knocking on that door, plenty of manufacturers knocking on that door trying to knock them off the top of the food chain, but uh, overall, as far as a well-rounded bike goes, I'm not sure anyone has pulled it off yet. So what do you get with one of these? So this is a 2011 R1200 GS. It's the oil-cooled model. Um, it's not the old Airhead, not the newer 1250, the one right in between. And so this one has a few of the electronic upgrades, stuff like that. It's got electronic suspension, which is nice. It can go between single rider and double rider and luggage and no luggage, and then sport, normal, and comfort for each of those setups. So that is really nice to have, and it is noticeable. I will say there is a definite difference between sport and comfort when I'm riding the difference between twisties or cruising the highway to get somewhere. So, certain things to think about with GSs. So there's not that much to really look out for. All the research that I've conducted, there is only one major issue as far as major, expensive repair, and unfortunately, this old girl here needs it. So it is common amongst the BMWs. This one has 32,000 miles on it, so it's still fresh, it's still a teenager. But unfortunately, this generation is known for their rear main leaking. It's either that or I believe is a counterbalance or shaft seal. It's one of the two, but both of which will leak from the back of the motor right here. And this one started probably a couple months after I got it, and we're assuming it's the counterbalance or shaft seal because it's not slipping the clutch or anything like that. So I've really just been riding it and watching the oil level until this winter or whenever we'll actually get the bike split in half. But that is something to look for when you are buying a used GS. That's at least this generation. I believe it's '07 to 13. These are all very, very similar bikes, and you'll want to look for a little drip of oil right down the back of the bottom of the case. So I didn't know what I was looking for, and I learned my lesson. So that's an expensive fix. Um, but other than that, this bike has been incredible. The highway manners are incredible. This bike has 32,000 miles on it. So for a lot of adventure bikes, that's not that much, but it's definitely well broken in. And most of the time, by the time bikes get, 15, 20,000 miles on them, you can start feeling some things that get a little loose or, I had a Super Tenere before this one, and by the time I hit 20,000 miles, it didn't feel as tight and well put together as it did when I first got it. And this thing is solid as a rock. You can feel the build quality, um, and it's incredible. I got some 50/50 tires on here now. It does great on road. We were just at the tail of the dragon 2 weeks ago, and I just about scraped my luggage on the side on the road. So I would say it gets plenty far over. As far as off-road mannerisms with this, a lot, again, has to do with the tires. It's a 50/50 tire, and they're great. They hook up great off-road, but I will say the suspension is soft. Even when I put this in off-road mode, and it stiffens the suspension up. It is still obviously a very heavy motorcycle off-road. So I'm not going to rip this thing like I would my KTM 300 off-road, but that's expected. But up until now, there's been no double track or even a little bit of single track that I've had it in. Nothing has, made me scared that this wasn't going to make it. We were just down doing the SM500 last week. That's relatively easy off road, and never once did I lose confidence in this thing. It's very well planted. It tracks very well. So again, the pros of this bike is what I will say after I have owned or ridden um, the higher end KTM's, the Yamaha Super Tenere. I have not ridden the T7. Um, Other BMWs, I've ridden any kind of motorcycle in between there. But I will say, oh, the Triumphs as well. And this thing is almost as good. Any of their highlights, this thing is almost as good as anything that makes one of those great, but it doesn't falter anywhere else that some of the other ones do. You know, it's just dead reliable. It's been shown to be dead reliable. Um, it is just a great overall bike. It does not have the power of the KTM, not even close. The 1190 is the one that I'm referring to because that's what I have experience with. Um, but it is more powerful than the Super Tenere. Barely, but it is. It does twisties better than some of those other bikes with the 21-inch front wheel. You would not know there's a 19-inch on the front of here on the road. It is just such a good road bike. It is very smooth. Um, I will say I have an issue with it. I don't know if anybody else does. It could just be this one, but I do have this annoying issue of it's hard to get it out of neutral sometimes. It's just like I gotta constantly rock the bike to get it out of neutral. I'm not really sure what the deal is. Doesn't matter which way I go. But I'm gonna have them look at that whenever we have the bike split in half later on this year. Another issue that these bikes have been known to have, and they are in rare cases, but there is an issue with the final drive. Actually, one of our other guides, Cody, he also rides an R1200 GSA, and you can check that when you're going to check out an R1200. The best way to do that is to just grab the rear tire and shake it and see if you can feel any play or slop in that final drive. As you can tell, mine does not have that, so I can't show you what it looks like, but maybe we can have Cody shake his wheel and show you what his looks like. But that is one known issue, but again, that's pretty rare and pretty easy to check for. And then um, the newer bikes are known to have some fork recall issues, but again, it's a recall. BMW should own up to that. Shouldn't be a problem. Another known issue that these bikes are known to have is they use just a fuel strip to determine or to use as a sensor to determine how much fuel is left in the tank. Mine is still very true to how much gas is left in the tank, but again, our other guy, Cody, his is almost a twin to this bike, and his gets pretty sketchy about a quarter of a tank. He can't really tell anymore how much he has left, and so he ends up just setting his trip meter. So that's an easy thing. It's really probably not worth even looking into. Just set your trip and keep an eye on it. But it is a known issue, so just keep that in mind. And I'm sure at some point in the near future, mine is also going to start doing that as well. His has a few more miles on it than mine. But other than that, that's pretty much it. An additional thing I'd like to add to this is actually the crashability. I know it sounds funny, but when you've wrecked a few adventure bikes off road, that is something worth noting. And I will say, now this is the GSA, so it's got a way bigger tank on it. I don't think the actual GS, this is a tank. I think that's just uh, a piece of plastic. But having this tank here and these crash bars here, I've wiped out at 30 miles an hour on a dirt road, and my leg was safely hidden right here as I hit the dirt, and it didn't bother me at all. You can see I got some pretty good rash on this engine guard here. This skid plate was not on yet. It ripped my stock one clean off. So another thing I will knock BMW for is their factory skid plate is garbage. But again, I know why they did that. If your bike's going to be a road queen, it's totally fine. And this one kind of was a road queen. I mean, it's 10 years old and it still looks almost new. But they know that when you buy this thing, if you're going to thrash it off road, the first thing you're going to do is put a big skid plate on it. So why would they waste money on it? So I totally understand why they don't. But that is something I would say. Make sure that if you're buying used, get one with a skid plate or know you're going to be dropping some serious coin on a skid plate. Another thing that I'd like to add here is I was looking at getting soft luggage for this bike, especially after I wrecked it the first time and realized I don't ever want to get my leg caught in anything hard back here. And as you'll notice, the exhaust on this bike is on the other side. So this is all clean and notice this flat plate. This is right up against the bike, which is great. And it keeps everything nice and snug. Now on the other side, I'll make a video pan around there so you can see it. But on the other side, it is actually an angled, or it's a the rack goes around the exhaust, and so the BMW boxes, the factory boxes, go right around it, which is nice, and it keeps them tight to the bike, which is ideal. However, when you're putting on soft luggage, you can't get them to bend around that properly, or you can, but it would, misform or misshape the bag, and it would just make it look kind of funny. And so I put some soft bags on there, and you either have to do one of two things. You either have to buy an aftermarket set of racks. Like I know the Touratech ones were the ones I was looking at. That was like an extra 400 and something dollars just for the Touratech racks. And then you're talking, depending on what kind of bags you can get, you can go from, the Tusk Pilots all the way up to Moscow Moto on the high end. And when you're throwing that kind of money in there, you're already looking at over $1,000 for a set of soft bags. So keep that in mind as well. If you get the bike, hopefully it comes with factory luggage, or hopefully it comes with an aftermarket set of racks on it already so that the other side is flat. If not, know that you're going to have to make some form of brackets or stick with just the BMW luggage. And on that note, I'll also add the BMW luggage is incredible. It may not be, I think it is advertised as watertight. Maybe it's not, but I will say it's watertight. Cody has had his with us many times, and we're going up and down in the mountains, and just with the pressure changes, it sucks his cases so tight. We actually have a hard time getting them open when we get to camp. So they're very well sealed. Um, but yeah, otherwise you're gonna have to do what I did. I actually built my own brackets and my own quick release plate, and I actually went with the Tusk bags just because we were taking off right away, and Moscow had to wait. Otherwise, I went Moscow because I really value their customer service and their attention to detail and their stuff. That's pretty much it. I'll wrap it up. Overall, whether or not you should buy a used R1200, I think is the answer, or the answer to the question I originally wanted to ask was, should you buy this over a newer, smaller bike? And the answer is yes, you should buy this. They're awesome. And I don't think you'll get all of the perks out of a new bike that you would out of this, other than more electronics and something else to go wrong. But again, that's my biased opinion. Hope you guys appreciated that, however you may. And I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Take care.